This is Leslie's son. I am at Art Taipei 2017. This is the 24th edition of Art Taipei, and we have over 120 galleries this year from 15 countries. It's a very diverse bunch, and I'm going to give a little tour of my personal favorites, I guess, from the fair. So stay tuned. I think I'm getting a little bit of I'm losing my voice, so bear with me a little bit. It's very raspy and sexy. I hope you like it. I'm also going to be using two microphones because we need to attend to the guests who are doing the tour as well. So please follow me. Thank you. So first off, we're heading to... Hi, guys. I'm attending to... It's a little bit bizarre using two microphones, but I'm going to try my best. And I've lost half my voice, so bear with my raspy sexiness. I'm sure it'll be much better after I have 5 drinks tonight. Does this work for everyone? Does this work for everyone? Okay. So first off, we're gonna. Like I was saying, it's the 24th edition of Art Taipei, and this year we have more than 120 galleries joining us from 15 countries, and it's quite a diverse bunch. There's a lot of contemporary stuff, but also a lot of great works from the masters. So I'm going to point out a few, namely, I think 12 to 15 works that I especially like. So please follow me. So here we are at A1, which is New Gallery, Xinhua Lang. One of the pieces that I've picked at this gallery is Sculpture by Tony Craig. 你好，老板好。我们来导览一下，要不要跟大家说一下你这边这个作品的来源？
这作品来源我们是直接取自艺术家这样子。对。
Okay, so it's directly from the artist and very prominent sculptor. And I like it for its sculptural lines, but also I personally I'm a conceptual minimalist, so I like things with very defined lines, and also I like contrast. So I like it when things are seemingly soft, but the material is hard, or vice versa, when the subject matter may be heavy or difficult, but it's created in a very soft and romantic way. So I think throughout the tour you'll see a few things that kind of matches that description. And I think art collecting is such a personal thing, so it really just depends on personal preference, and I'm so happy that you're all willing to come and see what my personal preferences are. And so so this is one of them, and it's from New Gallery, and so we're off to the next. 谢谢老板。谢谢。拜拜。And I think we're going that way to Whitestone Gallery. Whitestone is a Japanese gallery that just opened an outpost in Taipei, I think less than a year ago, so it's relatively new in Taipei. I think they just opened in April in Taipei. So they specialize in Japanese artists, as you can see, Nara and Yayoi Kusama in this section, and I'd like to especially point out that I do like a lot of these Naras on the wall and some of the Kusama watercolors at that end, because there are like I don't see you. I don't think you see that much of these sort of more romantic and soft watercolors coming from Kusama's collection. So I'd like to especially point this out. These two pieces, especially, isn't what you would normally see at a lot of art fairs. So I think that's something quite special. As well as some of Nara's earlier works from the 90s that are a little more sort of rough on the edges, and I think those are also quite special. A lot of people think that Nara's work is very therapeutic, and I have to agree. And I think especially those where you feel like it's less, the strokes are a little more rough. I think it has even even more of a childlike quality to the works, and so I especially like those, and I think they're also quite rare to see at art fairs. So I would like to especially point this out, and now we're off to the next. Following Esther. I'd also like to point out that Whitestone, besides sort of the superstars, there's also a lot of contemporary Japanese artists that they represent that are also very worthwhile. Here. And the next stop is Massimo De Carlo from Italy. They have outposts in London, I think, in Hong Kong. And I would especially like to point out this piece, which is a portrait of Frida Kahlo as a child by Yen Ming. And Yen Ming is known for his monochromatic portraits of, he does a lot of self-portraits of himself and of his father, and then he proceeded to do a lot of portraits of politicians, and now he has a series of doing portraits of artists as when they were children. And I think it's especially fascinating, and I think those are artists who have influenced him throughout his art career. And I also find this portrait, especially of Frida Kahlo, very softer and more romantic compared to his previous works. So I especially like to recommend this one. It's actually one of my favorite pieces at the show. Where is Claudia? Oh, hi. I was like, can someone please come and just explain? Talk about the artist.
Okay, so well, thanks for stopping by. I try to be not too long. Two in one, yeah. Okay, so Yen Ming is an artist we've been working for over 20 years. He's the painter of people. He's probably the artist that is most recognized for his portraits. Has been painting portraits of himself when he was young, painting portraits of Buddhas, painting portraits of Barack Obama, and of course now we have a series of portraits of very important, very recognized artists when they were young. So he's very well recognized for his paint. Paint, like the brush is a very big brush normally, and it does have quite an active structure on the canvas. And then because of the palette, because of the color, then it goes into the details. So if you see this style of painting, you know that's Yen Ming is unique.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, I definitely think that his strokes are very recognizable and it's very unique, and the monochromatic palette also makes it very romantic and beautiful. Thank you. So moving on to the next. Both of these are Yen Ming. This is Willem de Kooning, right? Very nice as well. No, follow me. Now we've approached E3, which is Sokka. It's a Taiwanese gallery. representing mostly Taiwanese artists as well. And this one is a young artist called Zhuang Zhiwei. And I actually first got to know his work just recently, actually. There's a group show at the MoCA Taipei that touches upon queer art, and he has a huge public installation in front of the museum, and I was very, very much drawn by it. I like how he uses hard materials like metal, and he scars the metal to reveal light. So I think he uses that to make kind of like a social statement. So I thought that was very interesting. This piece particularly is called Boys Don't Cry. And I mean, to put it in simpler words, it's really about the scars, but I'm sorry, it's not. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It's the scars on the metal, but at the same time, or more importantly, it's the light that shines through the scars. So I thought that message was quite special, especially for the group exhibition and its subject matter. So I wanted to point out this artist that's represented by Sokka. Oh, okay. And we're going to come through. We're approaching Asia Arts Center. It's quite prominent in Taipei and has an outpost in Beijing as well. We're always seeing art friends at art fairs. And of course they have some of the most important Chinese artists in their gallery collection, including Zhao Wuji, etc., and Chang Yu. And I want to especially point out not just this collection of sketches, but a few with colors. Because a lot of times you see these line drawings that are very soft and beautiful, but I do like this gentleman especially. It's very, very distinctive in San Yu's style, but there's a little more color and layers in the composition, so I was especially drawn to that. Then moving along, so the next two galleries are, I want to say, younger, not only in their presence, but also with the artists that they represent, and but also very interesting. This is Aki Gallery from Taipei. And there are actually two artists here that I like very much. One is Fan Yangzong, and he does a lot of poolside paintings, and this is one of a series of poolside paintings that he does, and this one is, I think this is. The title of this piece is 6:30 p.m., so it's a little more chill and relaxed, and it's happy hour time. But a lot of times he has paintings where it's a close-up of someone sunbathing, but the back would be sunburnt, and it'll be like super red and pink, and it's a little bit erotic even. So I kind of like the sensuality that he portrays in his paintings, even when the subject matter isn't that complicated. And the other artist that I really want to point out is Han, and this painting I love. It makes me question so many things. First of all, that could be me. How old is she? Where, whose hand is that that's coming in? What is that hand doing? You know, is she... I don't know. It's just this weird kind of rebellious attitude, but at the same time super mysterious. And I think the image itself just reflects a lot on my my inner thoughts sometimes. So I could especially relate to that. And this whole group is actually by the same artist. So there's oil painting and watercolors, which are equally well done. A young artist, actually, quite young, right? How old? Early to mid-30s. Yeah, so very young artist. Thank you. And moving along. More art friends. Moving along, we're here at Blue Rider, also from Taipei, and they have a collection of international artists, and it's very pop, and I like it because it's very sort of, you know, pop culture. It's very fun to look at. I think they approach art in a more sort of with a sense of humor, which is always great. And I especially want to point out Mark, just from Switzerland. He does a lot of video art, but the special thing about his work is that the video and the entire structure are all one piece. In other words, the frame and the video and everything that's involved is the art. As you can see in that one, the pendulum actually interacts with the video that's with the girl, and a lot of his works are of that nature. But my favorite actually is this set, although there isn't that much interaction between the frame and the work itself, but there is a lot of interaction between these two pieces, which is a set. And I don't know, I like works that are engaging, and that allows me to just keep staring at them, and I could stare at this piece for a while, so kind of find it quite engaging in that way. But I just really want to point out the fact that that the engagement of the work really comes in the fact that he kind of... I'm waiting for that to happen. Yeah, there we go. All right. So I want to bring you to the MIT section, which is made in Taiwan. And this row on the left consists of works from Taiwanese artists under 35, which are very young. And I picked one that I especially liked. Which is Xu Yuping. And this series of, how do you say it when?
Prosthesis.
Yes.
Prosthesis.
Prosthesis. That's what, are you the artist? She's the artist. Do you want to talk about your work? A little bit?
You can make an introduction.
Okay. Well, I picked this series of works because, again, like I said previously, I'm really drawn to works that have a lot of contrast. Like if it's a heavy subject, but it's executed in a very soft and romantic way, and I think this is the perfect example of that. Like when someone gets hurt or needs I can't say that word correctly, but if they need a fake body part, it's always a very it's somewhat of a heavy subject matter, but somehow this is done so beautifully and organically, and it's almost sculpturally very romantic. Same with these crutches. So I was especially drawn to the works, and I don't know if whatever I described was where you were coming from when you made the work partially. So I'm half correct, but what is the rest?
How long do I have? How long do I have?
No, what's the thought process?
Oh yeah, I mean like how long can I talk?
Oh, how long?
I know you're short on time.
For a minute.
So my background is in rehabilitation, and I've always been very interested in the body and medicine. So even though I stopped practicing rehabilitation, most of my works are still concerned with how bodies are defined as disabled or abled or enabled by prosthesis, and by presenting them in this aesthetically pleasing way, I'm trying to break the dichotomy between disabled and abled bodies. That's my main goal here. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Well, let's move on to the other side, which is international artists under 35. So also a group of very young artists. And I'd like to point out the works of Takumi Kama right there. I find his works especially interesting because it's a little bit surreal. And I picked the painting with the tortoise in the middle because, first of all, it's a bit surreal to put animals on a shelf. And I actually am a collector of things, so I like to see things kind of put together in an orderly manner, but at the same time, this painting draws me into it because I get to kind of see a few unexpected things in there. And humor always helps, so if I look close and I see something and it makes me laugh or smile, that's always a good thing to have at home, right? So, I would even point out this one. I am terrified of bugs, but, this one I wouldn't even mind having on my wall because the colors are so bright and vibrant. And you see these, what are these called? Starts with a T. Transformers, right? Transformers. See this tiny giraffe and pugs and a lizard. It's just kind of fascinating and engaging to look at. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then there's this seahorse peeping out of the window. So it's quite entertaining, I think, and that part attracts me. Moving along, we're going to the next aisle, which consists of multimedia and video art. So this is the frontier section. Right, Esther? This is the frontier section, right? Which consists mostly of multimedia and video works. And here there's actually two places that I'd like to stop by, and the first one here is Lianbei from Korea. I'd like to point out the works of Jooho Jun. These photographs, I think, are quite fascinating. Well, first of all, he has these sort of, right here, see, they're projections onto landscapes in the background, except the projections, you would think, especially with that one, actually, that one right here, you would think that the projected image is also part of the landscape, or is landscape projected on landscape, except that these highlighted images are actually shots taken from a microscope of nanotechnology, and it's metal parts. So those parts are then projected onto a landscape, and to create this photograph, which I think is quite fascinating, because you would think that those are actually, the shapes are actually trees or you know, part of the landscaping, and it's just maybe highlighted or there are extra layers of colors, but it's actually microscopic images of metallic parts, which is kind of cool. The next one down here is actually one of my favorites. Which is Econ from Singapore. I love TeamLab. I absolutely love TeamLab. I think they're taking digital art to the next level. I think every room can be transformed with their artworks, and I could stare at TeamLab forever. And I love the exhibition that they had earlier this year, I think, in Taiwan. I think they're doing exhibitions all over the world now. And whenever I see something on social media, I would think how lucky those people, that city where they're exhibiting their works, because it's truly fascinating. I think it's so surreal. I feel like I'm in a different world when I go and see them. I mean, my dream is to have a room, you know, that's moving TeamLab all the time. And so I think it would be such a privilege to have one of their works in your house. That's why I picked them. I think the movements are really, really intricate, and even though they eventually create a recognizable form, but the process of which they become that form is just really so nicely done.
We have a piece of flyers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Which is
P07. Really nice. And local Taiwanese artist.
okay. I'll stop by in a bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
graduate from Yale.
Okay.
It's the superstar tomorrow. Next.
所以那我们现在 Okay.
So COP07.
Okay. Thank you. And 我不认识。This is one of the most important galleries in Taiwan. It's called, in Taipei, it's called Lin Lin Gallery, and they're body of work, or their collection of work, is extremely diverse. They have old masters, they have contemporary artists, and mostly from Taiwan and China. And there's actually a few works in here that I would like to point out, and a few artists. Lai Zhouchen's a very young artist, and his works are sort of more poppy, but so distracted. But this guy, I'm a huge fan of Liu Wei, and especially the series of paintings where he paints into the frame. Meaning, a little bit like, well, you know what, I'm actually not going to make comparisons, but I absolutely love this series of works. He paints the frame white, and he coordinates the colors into the paintings inside. And it's not just portraits. I've seen landscapes in this series of works as well, which is absolutely beautiful. And I want to point out this young artist, Huang Jianing. Apparently there's a huge waiting list for her works, because these look like mundane photos of, I don't know, everyday life, not even landscapes, except that these are all painted. They're unique works that are painted, which is amazing, because if you look at them close up, you see the intricate paint strokes, but there are so much detail. There's so much detail and so much craft. And I think she's relatively young as well. I think she's maybe in her mid or early 30s. But the characteristics of her work is that it looks like either a blurry photograph or a low resolution photograph. You look at these, and then if you're just passing by, you'd be like, oh, why did someone just take a low resolution photograph of dandelions or of a puddle? Except then you realize it's painted, and then you go into these details of the water, and it's absolutely amazing. Highly recommended. But get in early, because I think the waiting list is until like 2020 something. And then now we are headed to our final destination, which is Puerto Roja from Hong Kong. Hello. Which I think you specialize in Latin American artists, right? Latin American artists, and I like to point out two artists' work here that I really like. One is Maria Garcia Ibanez. I think her work relates a lot with the body and movement and light, and these are her drawings of nuts, which she later digitized and had them laser cut. But the fascinating thing is the play with the shadows. So if you were, this is sort of lighting that's stationary, but imagine if this was hung in a space with natural lighting, then the shadow changes as the day goes along, because of the different angles of light where the light hits. And another artist that I like is Javier León Perez, because he's so obsessive with details, and I'm obsessive with details, so I can somehow relate to that. But the thing that I can relate even more is beyond the obsession, or not beyond, but aside from the obsession to details, he kind of allows the materials to flow organically. Like, for example, in this piece, if you come really close, you'll see that each layer is hand cut, and this is very thin Japanese paper. So he starts with a blank canvas or board. It's a wood board. Right, it's a wood board. So he starts with a blank wood board. He starts cutting the paper and layering them, but he allows the material to create its natural ripples. So I think that's a lot of I think that's a lot of how the way that I think and work. Like, I am extremely obsessive with details, but at the same time I like to let things go with its own flow. So it's a weird juxtaposition, but I can totally relate to it, and that's why when I saw his work I was like, I understand the artist's brain. So that was very nice and fascinating to me, and these as well. It's a little bit more geometric compared to that, but it's kind of a similar process. So that's it for now.
Do you take questions?
Of course.
We have like people watching the Facebook Live.
Oh, okay. Maybe we should move to where's?
Oh, Leslie's Esther away. She will come up.
Oh, okay. So maybe we should, or we could do it here, I guess. We could do it here. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one, which is Tetsukayama from Osaka. The series of work from Li Yufan on that wall. The portfolio of prints is also one of my picks. Obviously, he is a master, a very prominent artist, but to see these are from the 70s, and I think that it's a great balance between the soft and the hard, because the title of this piece is it's actually about point and line. And usually when you think about point and line and geometry, it's a little more hard on the edges, but this is done executed in a very soft way. So I keep talking about like the soft and the hard, and the heavy and the romantic, and I think that's kind of most of the stuff that I'm being drawn to. So this is another piece of work that I really like from the fair. Any questions? 8个一组嘛 ，portfolio of 8嘛，对不对？然后版数都是50版，然后对最初的那个版。Okay. And to add to what I just said about this, it's a portfolio of 8 with an edition of 50, and this is the first edition, so it's really quite special. 对嘛，对不对？ Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
So there's someone from Global Social's Facebook want to ask you, do you inspire your friends to like art and also to collect art?
I actually do.
How successful are you?
Actually, I have to say that I want to say quite. Because I love art so much, and I fly around to just go see art fairs and to get inspired myself, and I think a few friends have begun to tag along, and we would talk about art. I think it's important to have friends to talk about art with, and kind of exchange opinions and kind of have a dialogue, and I think with that dialogue it will enhance anyone's interest actually in art, and everyone's tastes are different, but there's really no like, do you think this is good or this is bad? I mean, of course you can analyze the market, and it's also fun to do so, but I think friends are really important when you're getting into art and in any way. So I feel like I have influenced some of my friends, so I'm very happy.
There's another question. Do you particularly prefer paintings?
No, I don't particularly prefer paintings, but I feel like I do like sculpture as well, and I do like digital art. But paintings, I like to see the hand strokes. So and the craft, and I think I also like it when things are a little surreal and unexpected. So for example, like the body of work by the young artist that looks like photographs, but they're actually paintings, and I'd be like, oh, they're painted, you know. So I think maybe you can say I'm particularly drawn to paintings, but I also feel like I'm drawn to sculptures as well. Yeah. But it's also a matter of how big your house is, right? Or how you want to store your art. I think paintings are slightly more manageable than a large-scale sculpture. So.
Anyone particularly prefer paintings?
Anyone particularly prefer paintings? No. Anyone else? No? I think this concludes our tour. I know it wasn't that comprehensive, but it's such a huge fair that I can only really point a few things out, and I think I covered all big sections. And I hope those who are interested will come to the fair. It runs until the 23rd. There's still a lot more to see. And thanks for tuning in. Bye. Appreciate it.